Good morning. The hour of 10 a.m. having arrived, I call this hearing in the Gaming Oversight Committee to order. The purpose of today's hearing is to discuss problem gambling, its effects, and how it is being addressed. This also gives us the opportunity to discuss House Resolution 52, which has been introduced by Chairman Diamond and myself, and designates March 2025 as Problem Gambling Month in Pennsylvania. We will also discuss House Resolution 60, introduced by Representative Kahn, which will direct the Joint State Government Commission to conduct a study on sports betting and related marketing. Today we will hear from Dave Yeager, a U.S. Army veteran in recovery for disordered gambling, from Liz Lanza, Director of Office of Compulsive and Problem Gambling for the PA Gaming Control Board, Josh Urkel, the Executive Director of Council on Compulsive Gambling of PA. From Sports Betting Alliance, we have Dave Prestwood, James Hartman, and Mr. Prestwood is the Government Affairs Manager of DraftKings, and Mr. Hartman is the Director of Government Relations at FanDuel. Welcome. And finally, we have Mark Stewart, Executive Director, Executive Vice President, and General Counsel for the Cordage Companies who operate live casinos. I also want to take note that in this meeting and in this packet is an additional testimony from Daniel Trolero, the Managing Director of Education and Responsible Play from IC 360. He was unable to join us today, but he did submit testimony for the record. Chairman Diamond, do you have anything at this time?
Thank you, Chairman Harkins. Welcome, everyone. I'm glad you could attend this meeting. I think it's a very, very important topic. As gaming has matured and grown over the last 20 years since it first became legal in Pennsylvania, we're seeing a lot of issues with problem gaming. And, when you tag one thing that has kind of an attraction for those who are susceptible to addictive behavior, and then when you tag it with another item, the cell phone, which is susceptible to addictive behavior patterns, I think you have addiction squared. And I believe it's our duty here at the Commonwealth to make sure that everyone who identifies themselves as having a problem, that we build avenues, very wide avenues for them to get the help they need and for that help to be successful. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk about this subject and look forward to all the testimony. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Diamond. I would like now to start by swearing in the panel. If everyone who... No?
Public hearing.
Okay, that's all right. If everyone who will be presiding or presenting testimony today will please stand and raise their right hands, if able. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief? Thank you. With that, we will invite the first witnesses, Mr. Dave Yeager and Mr. Yeager. Thank you for your commitment to come today. Thank you.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. Understood. Thank you. All right. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the House Gaming Oversight Committee. I'm truly grateful to this opportunity to talk about my journey through problematic gambling as an active duty service member, veteran, and Pennsylvanian. My hope is that this testimony will help shed light on potential severity of this disease and the urgent need for more education, screening, and treatment. I first experienced problems with gambling while stationed in the Republic of Korea shortly after the events of 9/11. While serving in the U.S. Army, I was put on orders to Korea early in 2001 and scheduled to leave that November. At the time, I was in my first marriage with 2 children, both under the age of 5. It was, to say the least, an intensely stressful time. I arrived in Korea, and it wasn't long before I discovered the casino-style slot machine rooms that exist in overseas military bases. I was a non-commissioned officer in charge of 15 soldiers. It took about 3 months for my gambling to move from moments of enjoyment and to a need, and eventually to an obsession to visit these rooms. My growing gambling obsession led me to make excuses to my wife to send more money. It led me to sell just about all of the household items that I'd brought with me for my 1-year separated tour. Then it led to me borrowing from my subordinates and stealing from my own units. I was disciplined, and I lost rank for my actions, rightly so. Got separated from my wife, and eventually got released from the Army because of the actions I took while I was gambling. I know the things I did in my addiction while on active duty were wrong. What I didn't know is why I was doing them. I considered myself a good, honorable person and non-commissioned officer. I think what was missing was the knowledge that gambling can become an addiction and what that addiction looks like. After the Army, my addiction led to separation, an eventual divorce from my first wife, loss of contact with my children for 2 years, several jobs that I left because they interfered with my gambling time here in PA. I was also convicted of a felony after stealing from an employer. My gambling addiction also led to 4 attempts on my own life. Through all of this, I felt like there was no escape. I felt like no one could understand what I was going through or the crazy thoughts that were going on in my head. I was leading a Jekyll and Hyde life. I projected a completely normal presence on the outside while I was being torn up on the inside. It wasn't until I found the VA's gambling treatment program in 2007 that I began to understand that this was an addiction and that there is hope in recovery. Until that point, I felt completely alone. My recovery journey began in 2007 and has had ups and downs. I did experience a relapse in 2020, but I have been solid in my recovery ever since and now speak across the country to try to raise awareness about this addiction. The need for education, screening, and treatment for gambling disorder is higher than it's ever been. More and more people are experiencing this addiction. Because of online sports gambling, more young people are experiencing this addiction each year. Military service members and veterans are already at 2 to 3 times the risk of their civilian counterparts to developing this addiction. Online casino, sports betting, accessibility to skill machines in almost every corner provides more access than ever, which leads to higher rates of addiction and potentially suicidality. As I look back, I wish I'd been given the information to possibly make different choices in my career and my life. If I had a better understanding that gambling can be an addiction, just like drugs and alcohol, that it progresses and what that progression looks like, and there is help available, I may have made different choices. I may have been able to salvage my career, my family, and years of misery. I'm not opposed to the gambling industry. Most people can gamble responsibly for entertainment. But for those of us who are susceptible, I feel it's crucial that education, screening, and treatment be made readily available so people have the opportunity to make different choices that I didn't know I could. In closing, I firmly believe that the state, the gaming industry, stakeholders like the Council on Compulsive Gambling of PA, and recovering gamblers like myself can and should partner as part of a public health campaign to reduce gambling harm risks. This concludes my testimony. I'm truly grateful for the opportunity to participate today. If time permits, I would be happy to answer any questions or hear any comments that committee members may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yeager. That's great that we could have you here today. Really appreciate your insight.
I'm honored and grateful. Thank you.
Continue on that good path.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was just brought to my attention, we overlooked doing the roll call. If we could do that now.
Chairman Harkins.
Here.
Representative Carroll. Cepeda Freites. Donahue. Doherty. Friel. Gallagher. Jose Giral. Representative Guzman. Harris. McAndrew. Mirsky. Rusnock. And Greg Scott, excuse me. Chairman Diamond.
Here.
Representative Benninghoff. Fritz. Hogan. Kephart.
Here, online.
Thank you, sir. Mahaffey, Mostello, Rossi, Rincavage, Tomlinson. He's online.
Here.
Ryan Warner, online. And Craig Williams.
Here, online.
We have a quorum present.
I would also offer that we have leave slips for Safrida Fritz, McAndrew, Rusnock, and Scott. Thank you. Our next witness is Liz Lanza, the Director of the Office of Compulsive Gambling and Problem Gambling for PA Gaming Control Board.
Good morning, Chairman Harkins and Chairman Diamond and distinguished members of the House Gaming Oversight Committee. My name is Liz Lanza, and I serve as the Director of the Office of Compulsive and Problem Gambling for the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board. Thank you very much for having me here today during Problem Gambling Awareness Month. Designating March for this important recognition started over 20 years ago as a week-long grassroots effort to provide outreach to those who are affected by gambling disorder. The main objective of those who participate in this now month-long event is to continue to bring recognition to the effects of gambling disorder and to ensure that the public is aware of the responsible gambling tools and problem gambling prevention and treatment options that are available in Pennsylvania. The Gaming Control Board's Office of Compulsive and Problem Gambling partners annually with the Department of Drug and Alcohol Programs, the Pennsylvania Lottery, and the Council on Compulsive Gambling of Pennsylvania to organize and participate in PGAM events statewide. During March and throughout the year, this group of organizations works together to promote the Pennsylvania Problem Gambling Helpline number 1-800-GAMBLER, as well as treatment options and programs available in Pennsylvania, like the board's self-exclusion program, which has helped tens of thousands of individuals distance themselves from their harmful gambling behavior. The board also requires online gambling operators to maintain a responsible gambling webpage with information on responsible gambling tools and where to get help for gambling disorders. Online gaming operators must also offer responsible gambling limits, which allow players to limit the amount of time and money wagered while gambling online. These limits can be used as a preventative tool by anyone who participates in online gambling in Pennsylvania. With the successful rollout of expanded gambling in the Commonwealth, it is imperative that statewide organizations and state leadership continue collaborative work in the creation of tools and programs to combat the perils that gambling addiction may bring to some Pennsylvanian citizens, their families, and their communities. For this reason, I would like to thank this committee for bringing light to the subject of gambling addiction and the tools available for those seeking help. And I strongly encourage the committee to adopt the resolution before you today proclaiming March 2025 as Problem Gambling Awareness Month. Also before you today is a resolution directing the Joint State Government Commission to conduct a study on sports betting in the Commonwealth. As the overseer of the board's Office of Compulsive and Problem Gambling, I can tell you that there is not enough research out there today that focuses on the effects of gambling, especially the effects of gambling on children. I fully support any push for research that can help better direct legislation and policy at every level. I'd like to thank you for your time today and for promoting March as Problem Gambling Awareness Month, and I'd be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any questions? Russ?
Thank you, Liz. May I call you Liz?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
thank
thank
you.
you.
I appreciate you coming here today. The Gaming Act provides for 4 different lists for self-exclusion. And for folks who don't know that, that's a list that somebody with a problem with gambling can put themselves on to exclude themselves from any particular part of gambling. The board's website has 4 different links to sign up for self-exclusion: casinos, interactive gaming, or iGaming, video gambling terminals, and fantasy sports. We're here today to talk about sports wagering, yet there is not a carve-out for these people to get on a self-exclusion list. But that's not actually where I'm going with this. I actually have a few questions. Do more people sign up in person or online?
Now they
Can you pull the microphone
sure.
closer to
Yes,
you?
let me
Yeah.
scooch up here. They definitely now enroll online.
Online.
Yes, I would say 95% of people enroll online now.
And when a problem gambler signs up for one, are they offered the opportunity to sign up just for one, or can they sign up for all of them? Do they need to do them all separately?
So they do have to enroll separately, but we created a program that it's like a waterfall. So if they select which ones they would like to sign up for, and then they go through the enrollment process for each one. So it's a seamless process.
Okay.
If they want to enroll for, let's just say, iGaming and casino, they would go through the iGaming and then they would be directed to go through the casino enrollment information as well.
And while I know the Gaming Act provides that self-exclusion should be available for these types of gaming, is it helpful to anyone, especially the problem gambler, to have so many different lists to choose from? And this is what I'm thinking. It's like, okay, and look, I think it's public knowledge. I am a recovering alcoholic, 9.5 years sober, and but if there was a self-exclusion list for bars, and I signed up for that, I would still have the opportunity to go to the liquor store, that sort of thing. So, does it make sense? Is that really helpful to give them the option to opt out of one but not the other? That sort of thing.
Right. And, probably maybe 20 years ago, it was very much looked at as if you can't gamble here, you can't gamble anywhere.
Right.
That's not so much the case with everyone. There are people who can go to a casino and gamble responsibly because, it may be 50 miles plus from their home and it's something that they enjoy and have always been able to do it responsibly. But as you said earlier, having that phone in your pocket and having that online, right there, that may be the issue that they're dealing with.
Yeah.
Sports wagering, another thing that we're seeing a lot of people developing problems with. And that is, if they may be able to go and play a slot machine and handle that, but they may not be able to, again, pull out their phone and wager on a sports game on their phone. That may be too much for them. Mm-hmm. So then they have the opportunity to say, okay, well, since the online gambling and fantasy contests are right on my phone, I'm going to self-exclude from those two venues because I know I can't control myself.
Right.
But I can for the VGTs and the casinos because I have to physically go there. I have to take that step. And that type of gambling has never caused a problem in my life. So for this reason, and I have to tell you, when we first developed our self-exclusion programs, I was definitely on the line of it should be one list, because, people have gambling problems. There are people that can't do any of it.
Right.
Once you have a gambling problem, there's some people that once they have a gambling problem, they can't gamble, period. Right. But they do have the opportunity then to enroll in each one of the self-exclusion lists. But now that I do see that there are different addictions. Basically, it affects people differently. I am supportive of having the separate lists.
You are?
Yes,
Okay.
I am. I think it makes sense. And I think that it's individuals take more advantage of them separately than together.
Okay, so let me then just revisit an issue that came up at the end of the last legislative session where some regulations were sought to be changed about how when somebody comes off a self-exclusion list, it was suggested, right now they have to, if it's a physical casino, they have to fill out a form before they can set foot in a casino again. But it's my understanding that if it's for online, you don't have to fill out that form. And, I sent a letter of opposition to, eliminating that form because I think that it's helpful for folks to understand exactly what they're doing when they, it's not your year's up, you're automatically off, and you just waltz into a casino.
Right.
I think it's effective for them to sit down and actually have to fill out the form and think about what they're getting themselves back into. Something that's related to that, which is because some people actually assume that just because they're years up or they're 5 years or whatever it is, they can just waltz back into the casino. But no, they have to actually fill out the form and apply to withdraw from the self-exclusion list. But I find that the penalty for overlooking that step might be a little too harsh, where if they're caught in a casino, that they get charged with trespassing, when they might not have, it might just have been, they didn't realize they had to fill out a form. Do you have any opinion on, like, maybe giving them a free pass on that time until such time as they actually go and fill out the form and do that, rather than actually charging them as some sort of criminal? It just came off a little harsh to me. It's like, your time was up. Maybe they just didn't realize. I mean, I would love for them to know that they're filling out that form. And frankly, I would like for them to fill out a form for all of the self-exclusion lists. But if they make a mistake and overlook that, should they get charged with trespassing? You know, just get your thoughts on that.
Normally, and this is just, so state police are usually the ones who deal with those who violate, and it's up to them whether they charge the person or not with the trespass. And normally, if the individual is there and it is for, they thought they removed, or it's, you know, they're walking in and they're saying, you know, I'm here for, you know, my win-loss statement, I'm self-excluded. Or I'm here to, you know, I need information on how to remove. Usually, if they're not caught gambling or trying to evade, and they come in, for the most part, they're not going to be arrested. Now, if they are coming back time and time again, and they are violating their self-exclusion ban, that's when that citation for trespass is usually issued. I can't say that it doesn't happen ever on the first time. I mean, it very well could, but that is something that's left up to the law enforcement.
Is that discretion embedded in the statute, or is there a shall provision in the statute?
I believe the statute. I believe there is, the arrest policy is by regulation, if I'm correct.
Okay.
But I would have to look at the statute, but I'm pretty sure that's by regulation.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
Sure.
Mr.
And
Chairman.
Can I just add that earlier you spoke about the sports wagering. So we allow sports wagering online and in casinos. So if somebody is having an issue with sports wagering online, we allow them to enroll in our online iGaming self-exclusion list, and that covers the online sites. And then if they're having issues with an in-person sports wagering, they can enroll in our casino self-exclusion list, and that they will not be allowed to go to the sports book in the casinos. So they're covered by our online self-exclusion list and our casino self-exclusion list.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
sure.
Mr. Chairman.
I think Chairman Benninghoff had.
Thank you, Representative Harkins. And Madam Director, appreciate you being here. It's probably one of the few that were here when we first did the gaming law. I believe we put 5% of all the revenues aside to deal with gaming addiction. I guess my question would be, and I'm newer to the committee, served on it many years ago, but I'm back, is there a particular form of gaming you find is more problematic? You had said something, I couldn't remember, you said horse gaming or sports gaming. I was just curious if there's one particular form of gaming that we see more problem gamblers with.
Yeah, I would say at this point in time, it would be sports wagering. We're seeing a surge in issues with that. We're seeing a lot of calls and people enrolling in self-exclusion because they're having issues with sports wagering. So I would say, and it probably, you know, obviously 10 years ago, we wouldn't have had that with sports wagering because it wasn't legalized. So, you know, 10 years ago, I would have probably said something different. But right now, currently, what we're seeing, what my office is seeing, is a lot with online gambling, but particularly online sports wagering.
One quick follow-up, Mr. Chairman. Quick follow-up question. Is there any particular age group that seems to have more problem with that?
It is definitely tilted towards the younger male population.
And we're talking 30 and under?
Yes, I would say we're definitely seeing an uptick in the 30 and under male crowd that are reaching out to the helpline, which I'm sure Josh can talk about, but who are also enrolling in our self-exclusion programs. Yes.
Well, I appreciate your taking time to answer that, and if anything that you think we can do to help, please let us know.
Thank you.
Thank you both, Chairman.
Representative Giroux.
Thank you, Chairman. Director, just recently on Parks Casino, someone that was on the self-exclusion list won $57,000, and they were given a citation for trespassing. Well, my question is, what happens to the winnings?
So the winnings are confiscated from the individual and it is given to the board, and that is what we use to offset the cost for our self-exclusion lists and our database and the whole program. So it goes and towards our outreach, and we do public campaigns on our Don't Gamble with Kids campaign and things like that. So those monies go toward the problem gambling programs of the board. Sure.
Any other questions? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. Have you noticed an increase in bankruptcies in Pennsylvania since the advent of online gaming?
I really can't speak to that just because I've not personally looked at those numbers, but I can tell you that I've been reading news articles that they are seeing in general the states with sports wagering, legalized sports wagering, they are seeing the number of bankruptcies, and I think the dollar amount per bankruptcy is higher now as well.
Representative Mahaffey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Liz, thank you for your testimony. My question is, and I think it bounces off of what Chairman Benninghoff was saying, is 5% of the profits from gaming are supposed to go into problem gaming, help, and so forth. When these folks sign up to get out of whatever that their level is that they sign up or whatever, then when and where can they go for help? Because they can sign out of whatever they want, and then there's illegal gambling that goes on, and we're seeing more of that on the internet and other places that are problematic. And I think this is going to go back to Dave and his testimony. What did you do to help yourself, and where can we go to get, or where can people go to get help? And are we paying for that through this 5%?
Yes. So for when somebody enrolls in self-exclusion online, there's links to as soon as they get through the process, the very last page gives them links to our website, which has links to the state's treatment providers that are funded through the gambling dollars. Though that money is directed through the Department of Drug and Alcohol programs. And that money goes to the treatment of problem gambling, the prevention for problem gambling. And I think I know it also goes to substance use disorder as well, some of it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Liz, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
I drove down late last evening, and I had YouTube on, and I noticed after 9 p.m., every 5 minutes was an ad and I thought, boy, if you do have a problem, that's not making it any easier.
Right, it is. It's everywhere.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Our next witness is Josh Urkel, the Executive Director of Council on Compulsive Gambling of PA. Josh?
Good morning, Chairman Harkins. Good morning, Chairman Diamond. Good morning, members of the House Gaming Oversight Committee. I'd like to thank you all once again for inviting the Council on Compulsive Gambling to address the committee and for the opportunity to provide you all with information related to what we're seeing with regard to sports wagering and other forms of gambling in Pennsylvania and the impact that it's having on some individuals. It's especially timely that this hearing is taking place right now in March, which is recognized nationally as Problem Gambling Awareness Month. And I'd just like to thank, regarding HR 52, special thanks to Chairman Harkins and Chairman Diamond and the entire committee for your continued support of this important grassroots initiative in Pennsylvania. As you may recall, the Council on Compulsive Gambling of Pennsylvania is the recognized Pennsylvania affiliate of the National Council on Problem Gambling, and we've served as an advocacy group here in Pennsylvania for over 40 years now. We address the needs of individuals and family members of individuals who are affected by problem gambling. And help is available through the Problem Gambling Helpline, which can be accessed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week by calling 1-800-GAMBLER. The helpline connects callers with additional resources, which include, but are certainly not limited to, professional counseling services, information about virtual and online meetings, as well as in-person meetings throughout Pennsylvania, and then tools and resources that can be used to assist with problems. This is a free service, and it offers confidential assistance to callers, and a language line service also offers translation services in over 200 languages. The council also addresses the issue of problem gambling through a variety of different outreach efforts and education programs, working closely with the Pennsylvania Department of Drug and Alcohol Programs, the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board, the Pennsylvania Lottery, Penn State University, as well as county agencies all throughout the Commonwealth, with the shared goal of helping to prevent and address gambling problems. Regarding our advocacy efforts, the council, we remain neutral and do not support or oppose legislation to legalize and expand gambling and gaming, but rather, our mission is to advocate for the development of and expansion of comprehensive policies and programs which can provide help to the estimated hundreds of thousands of Pennsylvanians whose lives are negatively impacted by problem gambling. And we feel that House Resolution 60 takes a significant step towards this by addressing or by directing the Joint State Government Commission to conduct a study on sports betting and outlining key areas of focus, including expansion of regulations that assist in reducing problem gambling behaviors and exposure of children to sports betting advertisements. Research has shown that the earlier that individuals are introduced to gambling, the more likely it is that they may develop problems down the road. Now, allow me to refer you to our 2024 annual helpline data report, which might provide some assistance to some of the questions that were asked earlier. For your convenience, the last page of the annual report features an at-a-glance section, which highlights some of the key findings of 2024 data. In 2024, the Helpline Center received 2,168 calls specifically for help. And these calls were made by individuals who were seeking information and help about a gambling problem that they or possibly a loved one were experiencing. And additionally, we also have a chat and text option available on our website, both of which offer an alternative to the traditional phone call approach. We feel that this increases the reach of the helpline service by meeting people online where they may be gambling, and by offering an added level of anonymity as well as an added level of comfort by not feeling the need to necessarily verbalize that they or their loved one may be having an issue. And over the past several years, this method of communication has increased dramatically. And in 2024, we had 562 individuals reach out for help this way. Over the past 5 years or so, since newer forms of gambling have become more and more available following the passage of Act 42, we've seen several shifts in call data. Some of the more notable shifts include a significant rise in calls from individuals who are struggling with sports betting and online gambling. And prior to expansion, calls outlining these activities as the most problematic, they represented a very, very small percentage of overall calls. The Pennsylvania Interactive Gaming Assessment, which is conducted annually by Penn State University, has found that sports betting is the most popular form of online gambling in Pennsylvania, with 7.9% of adults reporting past year online sports wagering. And the forthcoming 2025 assessment by Penn State University has already found that over 40% of those betting on sports online are placing in-play wagers, which have been identified as one of the factors in the development of gambling problems. Also, during this time, we've also seen a shift in the age of callers to the helpline, with the majority of calls, nearly 1/4, as a matter of fact, being placed by 25 to 34-year-olds, and high call volume from 18 to 24-year-olds has also been identified during this time. And what I can tell you is prior to sports betting being available and online availability, most calls were placed by older individuals. This is something that we've seen shift rather quickly, and it's continued on to this day. And once again, all the information that I just outlined, it's presented in greater detail in the annual report. As mentioned in the resolution, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has been a leader in addressing problem gambling. And the treatment and prevention efforts that the Department of Drug and Alcohol programs and its providers have implemented over the course of the past several years, the regulatory efforts of the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board, the responsible gambling efforts of the Pennsylvania Lottery, the research that's conducted by Penn State University, and the work that we and so many of our colleagues throughout Pennsylvania continue to do, all have resulted in a very wide network of tools and resources. But clearly, the problem still exists. So continually reevaluating existing programs and resources and looking at ways to improve upon what is available, they're always important considerations. So whether it be related to expansion of protections associated with existed regulated gambling or the development of regulations that include a whole wide range of customer protections for other new activities, the goal is always to improve health and wellness by reducing the personal, social, and economic costs of problem gambling here in Pennsylvania. In closing, we believe that the most ethical and cost-effective response to gambling issues is a comprehensive public health strategy that includes prevention, education, treatment, enforcement, and research services. And we feel that House Resolution 60 plays a role in achieving this. This concludes our testimony, and I want to thank you for having us today. Again, if time permits, I'd be happy to answer any questions or hear any comments that committee members may have for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your testimony. You had mentioned new ways or new technologies, new programs. Are you familiar with the website Reddit?
Reddit, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and then Wall Street Bets.
Wall Street, yes.
So options trading. You mentioned young men in particular are making all these calls and everything. Is your organization, do you have any programs that would try to educate young people? Because if you have no idea what you're doing, options trading is basically just gambling. And the payoff can be huge, but you can also open up your Robinhood app and basically spend all your money on a bad bet. And it is also hurting a lot of young people, especially, and potentially ruining lives.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for your question. I appreciate it. We absolutely are. That's something that we look at quite frequently throughout the year. We've had programs and services, different educational programs that have been kind of aimed to increase awareness about some of those risks associated with day trading, which, when you look at the general definition of gambling, it certainly fits into that definition. And at the helpline, we are seeing some folks who are calling saying that stock market or day trading has become their most problematic type of gambling. So even though that doesn't fall under the traditional forms of regulated gambling that we see, it certainly is not out of the realm of possibility that somebody's going to develop a problem. And as a matter of fact, many are. That kind of falls under when I mentioned other activities, one of the components that we often think about, because when we have conversations with folks in trainings and in public meetings and community meetings, we hear casino and horse racing and even sports betting these days often being recognized as gambling, but people forget about things like bingo and raffle tickets and day trading and video gaming and some of the other components that are often involved in different activities that have risks associated with them. So thank you for bringing light to that, because that is another very important piece to this puzzle.
Thank you. Anyone else? Questions? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Urkel, for your testimony. I have a question. In your testimony, you spoke about whether that your organization remains neutral and does not support or oppose, but rather your mission is to advocate for the development and expansion of comprehensive policies and programs. What does that look like?
So participating in different types of community-based outreach programs, participating in meetings just like this one, speaking with lawmakers and regulators about things that we've been concerned about, similar to what Chairman Diamond talked about earlier, the concern that there was going to be a change that we felt was going against the best interest of folks who were in that self-exclusion protected role, moving them to an automatic removal. Having our voice heard and kind of gathering a lot of the folks that we work with across the state and just promoting the fact that this is something that we feel is important. That's one recent thing that we've been involved with. But traditionally throughout the year, we try to focus our efforts on really just raising awareness about problem gambling, what it is, what it looks like, and what factors are often associated in the development of a problem, But then much more important than that, what do we have in place in Pennsylvania that can help prevent problems? And then what do we have in place that can help address them once they start? So kind of a multifaceted approach just to try to do everything that we can to help people understand more about the problem and how it's not something to be embarrassed about. It's not something that there should be any shame or stigma associated with. It's something just like we see with drug and alcohol addiction. What happens in the brain and the way that the brain is associating this type of activity with our next movement, that's the concern. And the more that we can do to bring the temperature down and have people talk about it, whether it be connecting with a helpline specialist or meeting a counselor or going to a meeting, there are various ways that we can approach that attempted recovery.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may have a follow-up. And then in terms of education and prevention, and I notice in the data, there's an increase 18 to 24-year-olds. I mean, do we need to start education earlier in the high schools, perhaps? And even with prevention, because we have a lot of young people who are addicted to these video games. They may not be betting, but they're like zoomed into these games consistently. So I'm just curious as to what your thoughts are on that.
It's a great question. And yes, going back to day trading and some of the other types of different, and we'll just kind of use the air quotes, just putting them under gambling or gambling-like activities. There are a variety of different age requirements to participate in these different types of activities. So where the Gaming Control Board, it requires that 21 or over for slot machines online and casinos and a whole host of different things, there are going to be those variations. Yes, I would say even earlier than high school, it's important to start that conversation. The Department of Drug and Alcohol Programs oversees the compulsive and problem gaming treatment funds. And that is something that part of that funding goes out towards counties, single county authorities that can implement different types of prevention programs within their counties. As of last year, that's now a requirement for every county, every SCA in Pennsylvania to participate in, to use funding, to apply for it, to implement some type of prevention funding, education, awareness campaign. Could be social media, even doing something as simple as increased messaging on social media platforms. It can really go a long way, not necessarily in fixing everything or in solving every problem, but in, again, just sort of making this more of a household and understood term and just bringing that temperature down, like I mentioned before, that it's not something that needs to be scared of or embarrassed about. It's something that we should all be talking about. And the more that we all talk about things, as you know, we start to see things just kind of become much more, there's just a much increased level of comfort when talking about it. And hopefully we can kind of move that needle a bit in helping people to get the help that they need.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Real brief, senior stats of the increase in problem gambling with 18 to 24-year-olds in the inception of NIL in our colleges. Are college athletes prohibited from sports online betting?
Sports wagering, yes. But
So if I'm a paid athlete in college, I am prohibited from wagering in any sports betting
yes,
or just collegiate.
as far as it's a good question. As far as the NCAA guidelines, I believe that's solely based on college wagering, on college events, March Madness, for example. I don't know that that includes also professional wagering or not on sports wagering. But yes, that is something that, as far as the NCAA looks at, that could be loss of scholarship, that could be removal from the organization of whatever team they might be participating in or whatever league they may be participating in. So there are some pretty significant penalties. I don't know that it's limited solely to college sports, though. But it is certainly something that they've been looking at for quite some time.
Looking at, or there's actually a prohibition. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking about the potential for a lot of headaches and problems here. If you're a now paid athlete and you have the legal ability or lack of prohibition to be betting on collegiate sports, one of which you might participate in,
Yes.
that seems like a very difficult situation for a relatively young person to be balancing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that section is prohibited, and any type of participation in gambling on online sports, on online collegiate sports, that is certainly something that's already been addressed and is prohibited.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman Diamond.
Thank you, Jason. It's good to see you again. You had made some relational comments about problem gaming to alcoholism and drug addiction. And I think that most everybody can understand how the rush of winning a bet can lead to, the desire to win another bet and how that can lead to addiction. I was wondering if, with substance abuse, sometimes the root cause there is social isolation. And I was wondering if that may also be part of the root cause of gambling addiction as well. And on the backside, after you've interfaced with someone and we're trying to get them the help, do we try to give them an off-ramp back to a place where they're not socially isolated?
I'll try to answer that. I think I understand what you're asking.
Yeah.
And if I miss that, just redirect me. Yes. So you're absolutely right. One of the factors, and there are many factors. A lot of times they overlap, and there's a lot of complexities. But that isolation is certainly, and with today's world, and even before, in all fairness, you could go to a casino and you could sit at a slot machine and not talk to anybody and be kind of in your own world. And a lot of what we see with how slot machine gambling, often referred to as escape gambling for a lot of folks who are maybe approaching it not in the most healthy way, that's exactly what would happen, is they would be overwhelmed and immersed in the lights and the sounds and all the feelings that are associated with it. And they could be in this euphoric place where they're not feeling their physical or emotional pain. They're not thinking about their lost loved ones or their recent retirement or the fact that their kids moved away. And the more that we can reduce that isolation, that can play a role in helping somebody who might be approaching it that way. When we look now at online gambling, which, like you said, you can do on your cell phone, whether it be in a group of people, which could be happening in this very room right now, or it could be when you're at home alone, not talking to anybody. And the continued play and the rate of play that you can engage in some of these games, it just continues to allow for that little burst of dopamine to be released in your brain. So what we try to do is not necessarily approach things with a single fix, but looking at an overall lifestyle change so that holistically we can kind of approach working with somebody to help them have a better way of living and not necessarily just focus on fixing the social isolation or coming up with other activities that are healthier in place of the gambling or, staying away from a casino. It's kind of a complex mix of everything. I think that is an important piece that's not looked at enough, is that isolation component. Because again, the more that we see people approaching games like this in a social manner, sticking to limits like Director Lanza talked about, being able to kind of stay within control, those are all very good measurable items. That if somebody says, okay, well, I'm not going to go with my friends anymore because they leave at 10 o'clock and I want to stay till midnight, or I'm not going to play online anymore because I can play online by myself rather than with other people and nobody's there to tell me what to do, having that inability to stick to limits that may be established from the start, that could be a good indicator and measuring stick for somebody that maybe this is an activity I shouldn't be involved in because I'm not able to do that, or I prefer to do it otherwise. And, that could be similar to, like you mentioned with different types of substance use issues, that could be kind of measured in that same capacity. Or if somebody's able to go out and have fun with it versus staying home and that social isolation piece, that's where we sometimes see some of those problems really start to become a major factor.
All right. Thank you so much.
Sure
Thank you,
thing.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Urkel. We really appreciate your
Thank
time.
you very much. Thank you all.
Our next witnesses are from Sports Betting Alliance, and they have asked to present together. We have David Prestwood and James Hartman. Mr. Prestwood is Government Affairs Manager at DraftKings, and Mr. Hartman is Director of Government Relations at FanDuel. Thank you both, gentlemen.
Good morning, Chairman Harkins and Chairman Diamond, members of the committee. It's nice to see you again. My name is David Prestwood. I am Government Affairs Manager at DraftKings, and I'm here today to talk a little bit about DraftKings' multi-pronged approach to responsible gaming. Last October, this committee heard testimony from Lori Kalani, who is DraftKings' Chief Responsible Gaming Officer. She talked about our work educating and empowering players to play responsibly, and I'll build on that testimony a little bit here today. DraftKings was founded in the year 2012 in Boston to transform how fans engage with sports by combining technology, data, and entertainment into one interactive experience. And the vision was to create a platform where sports fans could deepen their connection to the games they love in a responsible and engaging way. And to that end, responsible gaming is central to how we operate. We continually invest in technology, in education, research, and in industry collaborations to empower players with tools and resources that encourage those players to set limits and to play responsibly. We utilize technology to identify behaviors that may identify a person who is playing irresponsibly, and we utilize in-app messaging prompts to educate our players on responsible gaming and to provide easy access to support resources. In just the last year, DraftKings launched our new online responsible gaming center, created the My Stat Sheet tool, which helps players make data-driven decisions about their own play, and launched a new responsible gaming education center to help educate key audiences about responsible gaming and the education tools and support that we provide to players. Additionally, DraftKings and 7 of the largest U.S. legal mobile gaming companies, including FanDuel, recently helped to found the Responsible Online Gaming Association, or ROGA, which supports independent research, sharing of best practices, and driving consumer education and awareness, including on college campuses. I do want to provide one comment regarding House Resolution 60 today, which directs this Joint State Government Commission to conduct a study on sports betting. I think the resolution makes one substantial omission in that there is no mention of the robust, illegal, and unlicensed sports betting and iGaming market. No study of sports betting would be complete without including any analysis of the overseas operators, the sweepstakes companies, and other unlicensed gaming operating in the state today. These companies are not subject to taxation or regulation of any kind. They do not have local market access partners, and in general, they are not required to provide any meaningful know-your-customer procedures like licensed operators do, including age verification. Many expressly offer wagering to individuals 18 and up, despite the legal age for gaming in the Commonwealth being 21. These companies advertise relentlessly, and their ads do not display the required 1-800-GAMBLER hotline, nor other required disclaimers. Broadly and generally, they do not follow responsible gaming best practices that are standard in the licensed industry, let alone the innovative solutions that DraftKings and other licensed companies employ. On the other hand, we are committed to operating with integrity. We offer a secure, regulated alternative to that illegal market that generates significant tax revenue for the Commonwealth. And we've assembled a world-class team of people focused on responsible gaming, embedding responsible gaming into everything we do as a business. In closing, I want to thank the committee for receiving our testimony today. I encourage the committee to continue to work with licensed regulated operators as we provide a responsible, fair, and transparent platform for all players. I also encourage the committee to work to discourage the pervasive illegal market, which operates without innovative and effective responsible gaming programs that help keep the game fun for everyone who plays. And after my colleague goes, I'll be happy to take your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, and good morning. Honorable members of the House Gaming Oversight Committee, Chairman Harkins, Chairman Diamond. My name is James Hartman, State Government Relations Director at FanDuel, and I'm here today to testify in support of the General Assembly's efforts to promote awareness of problem gambling and encourage responsible gaming. FanDuel is committed to creating a positive gaming experience for our customers across all of our products. While the vast majority of our players are able to manage their play responsibly on their own, we know that there are individuals who are at risk and will face challenges with problem gambling. According to the National Council on Problem Gambling, approximately 1% of U.S. adults meet the criteria for serious gambling problem, with an additional 2 to 3% experiencing mild or moderate issues. We take this issue seriously, and FanDuel promotes responsible and informed play through our in-app communications and tools designed to protect and support our customers. All players are equipped with a suite of tools to set personalized limits for themselves. These tools include deposit, wager, and time limits designed to ensure that players can manage their play effectively. Last year, FanDuel launched MySpend, a new personalized responsible gaming dashboard designed to help customers track their spending patterns and manage their budget. During the last NFL season, almost half of FanDuel's active players, approximately 3.5 million customers, reviewed their play activity using MySpend. We're encouraged by the early and strong engagement with MySpend and continue to innovate and improve the tools we're offering players. FanDuel also maintains a robust self-exclusion program that applies platform-wide across all jurisdictions and products. We invest in the self-exclusion lists and ensure that those individuals cannot wager on our platform and are prevented from receiving direct marketing. Upon exclusion, we offer players subsidized support resources, including a free license to Gamban, a service that will block all real money gaming sites across their devices. We also partner with Kindbridge Behavioral Health, a pioneering mental health service provider dedicated to supporting individuals facing challenges related to problem gaming. Through this collaboration, individuals who self-exclude from the FanDuel platform have free access to comprehensive mental health assessment and peer support groups designed to underpin their recovery journey. FanDuel is also expanding efforts to leverage technology to enable early intervention when at-risk behavior is identified with new initiatives that we'll be announcing in the coming months. FanDuel aims to set the standard for consumer protection, leading the way on creating sustainable industry that only a licensed and regulated market can provide. Beyond these tools and resources we offer our players, FanDuel also promotes positive social norms and consumer education, leveraging our marketing and our professional league and team partnerships so that those who choose to bet are aware of the risks, warning signs, and support resources available. Through FanDuel's RG Ambassador program, we work with a team of external partners, including professional athletes and individuals with lived experiences of problem gambling to raise awareness and promote RG education. As part of this program, we work with sports media personality Craig Carton, who visits college campuses to share his impactful story firsthand with students. Just last week, we launched The Comeback with Craig Carton, a new television show on our own FanDuel TV, where Craig sits down with those who have experienced the highs and lows of gambling addiction to amplify their stories, break down the stigma, and raise awareness of support and resources for individuals and their families, and to show that recovery is possible. And last year, FanDuel partnered with former NBA player Randy Livingston and his wife Anita Smith on a new program and resource hub aimed at parents and coaches, encouraging proactive, informed conversation about betting, with a focus on learning the warning signs, risks associated with underage gambling, and the importance of modeling healthy behavior for those who choose to bet. They were also the first guests on The Comeback with Craig Carton. In the interest of time, I'll stop there, but I'm available to answer any questions, and FanDuel is committed to working with the General Assembly to ensure responsible gaming measures are implemented effectively to create a sustainable industry where our players can enjoyably use our site for years to come. Thank you for your time.
Thank you both for your testimony. Any questions? Yes.
Thank you for your testimony today. I think throughout the testimony today of everyone, one of the things that keeps recurring is this illegal gaming sites and online access. And, you know, we talk about helping people opt out of stuff for the legal areas. However, we haven't spoken about, well, what can we do from a policy point of view to shut down the ability of these illegal sites to reach Pennsylvanians? Because I imagine, you know, without a device and a provider of this service, you can't get to this. And we obviously know where some of these sites are and who they are. Why is it that we can't restrict them from being on our devices, in our computers, whether it's the cell phone systems, the Comcasts of the world, the Googles? Like, why is it that this is so elusive?
I think that's a great question. The Commonwealth has already done the best thing you can do, and that is create a legal and competitive market that provides players with an alternative. So once you get beyond that, there are a number of things. I think, you know, what you mentioned is important. The industry certainly, and the American Gaming Association is working with the federal government to see what is possible as far as getting sites delisted, whether that be from search engines or application stores. You know, that's a challenge, but certainly something that the Commonwealth could take up. The Gaming Control Board has worked to eliminate, significant illegal operators and has been fairly successful in getting some of them to lead the state. So the Gaming Control Board's continued leadership is certainly helpful on that front, to the extent that they may need additional tools to combat the illegal market. We would support the committee looking at what some of those alternatives are. This is a state-by-state battle that the industry and responsible gaming advocates and legislators and regulators are fighting around the country. traditionally, when you knock one of these sites down, another one can pop back up, maybe the same operator, with a different URL and a very similar platform. But I think the other primary component is education. We're constantly working on this. American Gaming Association survey results show that about 70% of people who play in the illegal market think that it's the legal market. As these sites have gotten better, they look more like a DraftKings or a FanDuel than they do something a little sketchy. And so that's something else we're looking at, is how can we better educate players on what legal options are available.
Just to echo his comments, it's essentially a two-pronged approach, which is one, a legal regulated market, which has shown that depresses the unregulated market, and then two, as he mentioned, an active gaming board, sending cease and desist letters, because it is a whack-a-mole, right? These companies continue to pop up, so continuing to support the lawful, regulated, responsible companies while having a gaming board that's proactively going after the bad actors.
Thank you both. We appreciate your testimony.
Thank you for your time.
Our final witness today is Mark Stewart, Executive Vice President and General Counsel for the Cordish companies who operate live casinos. Welcome, Mark.
Good morning. Mr. Chairman Harkins, Chairman Diamond, members of the committee, on behalf of the Cordish companies, Live Casino Hotel Philadelphia, and Live Casino Pittsburgh, we thank you for the opportunity to appear before you and express our support for House Resolutions 52 and 60 and to address the important issue of problem gambling. For decades, the regulated gaming industry has worked with state regulators and the responsible gaming community to cultivate a culture of responsible gaming and to develop and implement effective responsible gaming plans. Live takes responsible gaming very seriously and has worked hard to contribute to those collective efforts. Our written testimony discusses some of those efforts that we make, and we strongly support House Resolution 52 and National Problem Gambling Awareness Month. But make no mistake, the many years of progress are at risk. As Chairman Diamond noted earlier, the gaming industry has seen significant change over the past 5 years with the emergence of online casino gaming in a handful of states, such as Pennsylvania, and online sports betting in a majority of states. Simply put, the smartphone is a game changer. Smartphones are designed to bring people back to them again and again. Add a gambling app to the smartphone, and you have a very different product. And it's one that has serious consequences for the public and for states from a problem gambling perspective. Just 2 months ago, at a forum of problem gambling experts discussing online gambling at Harvard University, Harvard's professor of global health explained about online gambling. It's definitely much more harmful than the usual other kinds of traditional gambling that people indulge in. It's continuous, it's intense, and it can be financially and also physically and mentally extremely harmful. Online gambling can be 10 times more harmful than other forms of gambling. Consistent with this, the National Problem Gambling Council reports that it has seen a 30% increase in the risk of gambling addiction over the period since online has proliferated. And an analysis of their helpline call data also highlights that online gambling is different. From 2019 to 2024, helpline calls in new iGaming states increased on average by 248%, while calls in 6 non-iGaming states actually decreased by 3%. The consequences are far-reaching. It impacts our public health system, homelessness, mental health issues, bankruptcies and loan delinquencies have increased, as one representative inquired about, and there's been greater impacts on the criminal justice system, all of which drives substantial increases in social costs for states. House Resolution 60 recognizes this reality and wisely calls for additional study of these matters to aid policymakers, the regulated gaming industry, and the responsible gaming community in developing new approaches and additional safeguards. Online gaming also poses an especial risk for teens and young adults. The director of the Rutgers Center for Gambling Studies explained that adolescents and emerging adults are the most at risk from online gambling. Safeguards and account login requirements are constantly tested by tech-savvy minors and others who are looking to engage in online gambling. Consider a couple facts. 34% of minors in Buenos Aires, Argentina, have engaged in online gambling, according to reports, bypassing adult verification checks. 54% of problem gambling helpline calls in New Jersey are from those under 34 years old. And 100% of the calls from those under 25 are from men. And in January of 2025, the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board placed 8 people on the state's involuntary iGaming exclusion list for creating and accessing 98 different iGaming accounts using other people's personal identifying information. Beyond young people, there's concerns about the impacts on African American and other minority communities. On January 30th of this year, Morgan State University's Center for Data Analytics and Sports Gaming Research issued a new study on this and concluded that online gaming will lead to severe public health, mental health, and financial impacts on African American communities. And the university called for more study of the impacts, along with a series of policy interventions. Indeed, over the last 18 months or so, there has been a mountain of new data that raises serious concerns about online gaming and strongly warrants new policy approaches and additional regulation. Examples are laid out in our written testimony, so I won't belabor them here. I'm probably already over my time. I will point out one of them, which is that legislation, now this has been going on for much longer internationally, and legislation entitled Gambled and Lost has been introduced in the Dutch Parliament to repeal online gaming and impose a complete ban due to, quote, severe unpleasant side effects leading to widespread social issues, including a sharp rise in gambling addiction and related mental health problems. H.R. 60's call for a joint state government commission to study these matters will ensure that the General Assembly has the information it needs to set new policy for online gaming in the state and establish enhanced protections for Pennsylvanians. We would encourage the committee to consider adding iCasino specifically, or iGaming, to the resolution. One of the measures that could come out of it would be banning the use of credit cards in online gambling, and that's a measure that Live fully supports. Another measure which was proposed in New York recently in legislation was to ban push notifications or text messages used to keep people gambling. And that's another measure Live Casino would support. Ultimately, H.R. 60 will help Pennsylvania maintain its position as a leader in responsible gaming, and we respectfully urge its adoption. And I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Any questions?
Much.
Thank you. With that, Chairman Diamond, do you have any comments?
As I said at the beginning, when you combine one addiction with another, you have addiction squared. And the people who are susceptible to any one addiction are going to be very vulnerable. And I think it's our duty to do absolutely everything possible as the Commonwealth is sort of making this available to people. So we have a duty to make sure that we stay on top of this, that we dedicate the resources in order to get people the help they need, to give people wide avenues to find that help, and then to make sure that they have the right off-ramps so that they can get back into kind of normal living and lead a healthy life. So I want to thank you, Chairman Harkins, for putting this meeting together. I do appreciate all the information. I want to thank all the testifiers. Very, very good information. And going forward, we should keep our eye on the ball here and not lose touch with the fact that so many people are, in fact, susceptible to problem gaming. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks again to all those who testified today, the witnesses, for their time and their information, and the information that they shared with the committee is greatly appreciated. With that, this hearing is adjourned. I'd like to call this meeting of the House Gaming Oversight Committee to order. Bob, if you would please take the attendance roll.
Chairman Harkins,
Here.
Representative Carroll,
Here.
Representative Cepeda Freites,
Designation.
Representative Donahue, Representative Doherty,
Here.
Representative Friel, Representative Gallagher,
Here.
Representative Giral, Representative Guzman,
Designation.
Representative Harris,
Designation.
Representative McAndrew,
Designation.
Representative Mirsky,
Designation.
Representative Rusnak, Representative Gregg, Chairman Diamond, Representative Benninghoff, Fritz, Representative Fritz, Representative Hogan, Representative Kephart, Representative Mahaffey, Representative Mostello, Representative Rossi, Representative Rinkavage, Representative Tomlinson, Representative Warner, Representative Williams. We have a quorum present, 25.
First order of business, may I have a motion to consider House Resolution 52? Moved. Second? Russ, thank you. Jim, if you would please explain the resolution.
House Resolution 52 designates March 2025 as Problem Gambling Awareness Month in Pennsylvania. It also recognizes March 2025 as National Problem Gambling Awareness Month as designated by the National Council on Problem Gambling.
Thank you, Jim. I would just like to offer a few remarks on House Resolution 52, which I'm sponsoring along with Chairman Diamond. Problem gambling is a public health issue affecting individuals of all ages, races, and ethnic backgrounds, and has had a significant societal and economic cost. According to the National Council on Problem Gambling, approximately 2.5 million adults in the United States are estimated to meet the criteria for a severe gambling problem in any given year. In Pennsylvania, 130,000 adults are estimated to meet the criteria for a severe gambling problem in any given year, and another nearly 300,000 to 400,000 adults would be considered to have mild or moderate gambling problems. As of March 2025, the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board has received over 38,000 requests for enrollment in their self-exclusion programs. According to the Department of Drug and Alcohol Program's latest compulsive and problem gambling annual report, a total of nearly $470,000 was spent in 2022-2023 on outpatient problem gambling treatment for clients that were treated for gambling disorders using compulsive and problem gambling treatment funds that come from the revenues for the legislatively authorized gaming operators. I note that this is only these legislative authorized gaming operators that subsidize and contribute to the treatment of compulsive and problem gambling in Pennsylvania. While I just presented a few statistics, National Problem Gambling Awareness Month serves as a critical reminder that behind every statistic is a person, a neighbor, a friend, a loved one, who may be silently battling addiction. This resolution is meant to be more than just a symbolic gesture. By raising awareness, we can connect individuals to resources like 1-800-GAMBLER, the hotline, and support and other organizations working tirelessly to provide education, prevention, and treatment. As a member of the House Gaming Oversight Committee and as a state legislator, we bear a dual responsibility of balancing the benefits of gambling with a steadfast dedication to protect vulnerable populations. As we continue to grow the gambling industry in Pennsylvania, let's also stay committed to helping those who may be struggling. By working together, we can make a positive difference in people's lives. In closing, I would like to extend my thanks and appreciation to the folks at the Gaming Control Board, the Lottery, DDAP, and the numerous nonprofit organizations who put in the work to help deal with compulsive and problem gambling issues and to help get assistance to those in need of it treatment. Please join me in voting favorably on House Resolution 52. Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Yes, Russ.
Thank you, Chairman Harkins, and I can't sum it up better than you why this resolution is important. I would like to add that many moons ago, 2003, 2004, when Pennsylvania was first discussing bringing legalized gaming to Pennsylvania, I was wholly opposed to it. I attended rallies in Philadelphia and elsewhere saying no slots, no slots, no slots. And I find it odd juxtaposition that I am now chairman of the Gaming Oversight Committee. I'm no longer opposed to legalized gaming because I think Pennsylvania has done a great job regulating it. But one of my concerns back then was, in fact, addiction and the problem gaming. And I think it's important that we pass this resolution, again, not as a symbolic gesture, but to do everything we can in this General Assembly to remind people that there is an issue with problem gaming and that we are trying to do what we can here in the Commonwealth to make sure those folks have many wide avenues of support and then many healthy off-ramps so that they can recover from whatever gaming problem they're suffering from. So I urge also a yes vote on House Bill or House Resolution 52. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, you could call the roll, Bob. Are there any negative votes? Seeing none, with that, unanimous. Thank you. House Resolution 52 is reported as committed from the House Gaming Oversight Committee. May I have a motion to consider House Resolution 60? Rep. Giroux. Thank you. Is there a second? Representative Guzman, thank you. Jim, if you would please explain the resolution.
House Resolution 60, sponsored by Representative Khan, directs the Joint State Government Commission to conduct a study on sports betting and sports betting marketing strategies. It asks for recommendations for possible legislation to reduce problem gambling, gambling debt, and the exposure of children to betting advertisements.
Welcome, Representative Khan. Would you like to speak on your resolution?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Harkins. Thank you, Chair Diamond. Appreciate the opportunity to work on this bill, to present it to you all. Also appreciated the hearing before and also your comments about problem gambling. Pennsylvania, people like to rag on Pennsylvania sometimes, but I'll tell you one thing that we really do well is getting resources to address problem gambling. It's been something that the Commonwealth has been a leader on. Something that we should be very concerned about is sports betting. It was legalized in 2017. The first bet started a few years later. And what we see from sports betting is different than the traditional slots and the table games. Within 3 years of it being legalized, sports betting, we saw an increase of 30% of problem gambling. 30%. I want to give you one more statistic. In Pennsylvania, there was a recent study that showed that 8% of adults are gambling. And 1/5 of those adults are spending a quarter or more of their entire paycheck on sports betting. So it's something that is very concerning. We want to make sure, like with our table games and historic, what we've been doing in Pennsylvania, that we're doing it with sports betting, that we're putting the proper safeguards, the proper off-ramps, so that when people have a gambling issue, that they're getting the help that they can, and also we're avoiding some of these problematic things that can get people into trouble. And that's what this resolution is going to do. It's going to look at. And I want to thank, first of all, I want to thank my co-primes on this bill who worked with me on it, Chair Harkins, also Rep. Waxman, Webster, and McAndrew. I also want to thank my colleague, Chair Diamond, who actually has a good amendment. I think actually makes our bill better because it's looking at the mental health issues of problem gambling to make sure that we're addressing this issue. I can tell you that it affects all people, as you mentioned. It affects all races, all creeds. Particularly though, young men under 30 are really getting sucked into this. Also black men too. So there's some racial disparities as well. We have to make sure that we're addressing this problematic issue, because it's depression, anxiety, and gambling withdrawal. These are real problems. So thank you so much. I appreciate the time and the indulgence for my testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Khan. I will be offering an amendment. It would be Amendment A00145. Is there a motion to adopt the amendment? Representative Giral. Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. Jim, would you explain the amendment?
Amendment A00145 notes the use of mobile platforms has increased the access to both sports betting and casino-type gambling. It will add the terms and related internet gambling to the scope of the study.
Thank you, Jim. With 95% of every sports wager in PA being done online, and subsequently 60% of every slot machine wager is now done online, and with many sports betting platforms directing bettors to the online casino gaming platforms, it seems relevant to include interactive gaming into this study. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, any comments, Chairman Diamond? Are there any negative votes on the amendment? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Thank you. Hearing none, Amendment A00145 is amended into the resolution. Next order of business, Representative Kephart offers Amendment 00195. Is there a motion to adopt the amendment? Benninghoff? And is there a second? Jim, would you explain the amendment?
Amendment A00195 requests the study include information on loan, bonus, incentive, and VIP programs, recommendations on further regulations on the industry to reduce problem gambling behaviors and gambling debt, and requests information on protocols that may be implemented for employee training in the industry with regards to the impact of complementary incentives used to keep players gambling.
Thank you, Jim. Representative Kephart, would you like to speak on your amendment?
Sure, just briefly.
Sure.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. And my amendment today would merely add to a study here about several things, but one of them is the VIP bonuses and stuff. There's been a lot of talk about this lately, both at the federal level and across different states. For instance, Richard Blumenthal, the senator from Connecticut, has been concerned about this, not exactly on my aisle thinking on lots of things, but, before we would propose any such legislation, I think we should at least just study it before anybody would even think about see if there is a problem, I guess you could say. So that's all my amendment would do. Just we heard a lot of testimony earlier today about problem with gambling and so forth. Just want to make sure that everybody's okay. There was a psychiatrist in Pennsylvania, for instance. She lost like a couple $100,000 or something in this, with addiction. So anyhow, that's all my amendment does. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on this amendment? Chairman Diamond, any comments? I would just offer, while I appreciate Representative Kephart's great intentions with this amendment, I feel its contents are already covered in the original resolution, and therefore I request that members record a no vote. Bob, if you would please take the roll.
Chairman Harkins?
No.
Representatives Carroll?
No.
Cepeda Freites?
No.
Donahue? Doherty? Creel? Gallagher? Giral? Guzman. Harris.
No by designation, I'm sorry.
McAndrew.
No by designation.
Mursky.
No designation.
Yes, sir. Rusnock. Scott.
No designation.
Chairman Diamond.
Yes.
Representatives Benninghoff. Fritz. Hogan. Kephart. Mahaffey.
Designation no.
Mostello.
Yes.
Rossi. Rinkavage.
Designation yes.
Tomlinson.
Designation
Warner.
yes.
Williams.
Designation yes.
22 yeses and 3 nos. Motion passes.
You have it backwards.
Oh, sorry, 22 nos, 3 yeses.
Thank you.
Oh. We had more than 3.
I'm sorry, wait a minute. I have 16 nays, 8 yeses. That's better.
We're going to work on our math in the next couple of weeks.
We're going to send him over to the education committee.
Okay.
Good job, Bob.
Thank you. Chairman Diamond offers Amendment A00198. Is there a motion to adopt this amendment? By Diamond. Thank you. Is there a second? Benninghoff? Jim, will you please explain the amendment?
Amendment A00198 requests the commission gather information regarding the impact of sports betting on the mental health and well-being of college student athletes, including harassment, coercion, or retaliation by bettors.
Chairman Diamond, would you like to speak on the amendment?
Sure. I think the explanation there is self-explanatory. I want to thank Representative Khan for working with me to bring this forward and being agreeable to it. And it was actually brought to me by his neighbors at Villanova University. But I can't imagine that our other universities, Penn State, Pitt, Temple, would all be concerned about the mental health and the safety of their student athletes now that, this is going on in Pennsylvania. So I would appreciate everyone's unanimous yes vote on this amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, I think this is an important addition to the study, and I urge all members to vote yes on this. Are there any negative votes on the amendment? Seeing none, passes unanimously. Amendment A00198 is amended into the resolution. On the resolution, is there any discussion? Any comments? Chairman Diamond? With no further discussion, I'm going to call the roll. Are there any negative votes on the bill? If no votes, hearing none. HR 60 is reported as amended from the House Gaming Oversight Committee. Unanimous. Thank you. Yeah. With no further business before the committee, I would recess and adjourn for now. Thank you.